I love tea, and I've been sampling a whole lot of Red Bush right now. That's
Okay.
my jam. I love all of the green teas, and you have a sorrel based tea. I'm looking at this right now, and on Ellis Island hibiscus. It looks amazing. Tell us about your tea journey before we get into the actual flavors.
Yeah, of course. So my great grandfather was a Jamaican immigrant. He came into America in the early 1900s through Ellis Isle or Ellis Island, which is part of the reason we named it that. The other part is my maiden name is Ellis, and it made sense. And so you hit it right on the head as far as the sorrel. So everybody that is Jamaican or has been to Jamaica should be familiar with sorrel. And so what Ellis Isle is basically an Americanized version of sorrel. It's really good. You're definitely in for a treat. We got to get some product in your hands. And I actually started out on this journey about 13 years ago as a college dropout. So I had this grand plan. I was going to go to college. I went to Howard in DC, and I would get a business degree and then work Wall Street, and I would save all of my money, and then I would quit my job 2 to 3 years later and then go after my true dream of entrepreneurship. However, freshman year, first semester, I realized how student loans work, and I would have graduated north of 100 grand in debt. And that part,
Oh,
yeah, I couldn't do it. So I figured, why not cut a few of those steps out and just go after my dream of entrepreneurship? And I was young enough, I was 19. So I was young enough to change my mind if it didn't work out. At least that was the story that I told my family, but I knew I wasn't going back. But just to ease people, that was a story I told. Like, hey, I'm young enough to go back if this doesn't work out. And the trial and error, it began there. So I started out selling tea out of my trunk. And I would,
wait. So before you got to the selling the tea out of the trunk, how were you packaging and making the tea to even get it to the trunk?
yep. So it was passed down a couple of generations from my great grandfather, and it stayed in the family for years. And the talk of the mainly Thanksgiving gatherings was always the tea. It was unnamed at the time. And so I figured there was something to this, and this could be my ticket to entrepreneurship. And so we've got a lot of cooks in the family on my paternal side. Like, food is the way we do everything. It's the way we love, it's the way we communicate. And for the talk of our gatherings, and we would have like 100 plus people under one roof, for the talk of it to always be the tea, I knew it was something to it. And so it had never been written down before me. And so I mustered up the courage to ask for it. And it was given to me like this. I'll never forget: a couple lemons, couple limes, some oranges, some tea bags, and then you have the recipe. And so I was really excited, went home and went to the store, bought some tea bags and bought a big 5 gallon stock pot and tried the first batch. And it was
Wait, pause. What kind of tea bags? Lipton's? Like what tea bags are you using?
so it was a zinger blend, celestial seasonings. It was an herbal tea blend. Yeah. And so from that point, I made the first batch and I watched the pot boil, which everybody knows a watch pot never boils. It took forever, and was super excited to try it. And the first time I tasted it, it was absolutely disgusting. The tea is red. When I made it, it came out brown. It was just horrible. So it took me an entire year to get it right, to master it and get it good enough to sell. So that's what I was doing.
Naila. Sorrel is an herb. It's hibiscus. It's its own thing,
Yeah.
right? It's its own thing. How are
Yeah.
you getting it out of a tea bag?
So that's the part where I had to become a scientist and commercialize or break it down myself. So usually people, and I spent a couple thousands hiring chemists to try to commercialize the recipe for me. And I found myself, because everything I got back tasted like a syrup or like it was created in a lab, it didn't taste real. And so I found myself cutting open tea bags and separating the hibiscus, separating the rose hips to see how much of each herb was in there. And then I had to create and commercialize the recipe on my own. So that's what took me so long. And then from that point, I started literally selling tea out of the trunk. I would brew the tea at night and then bottle it by hand the next morning and load up my cooler, put it in the trunk, and just drive around the city. Wherever I saw people, I would just get out and try to sell it. People thought I was crazy, telling me, you dropped out of school to be a lemonade girl. This is ridiculous. You need to go back to school. And so from that point, I literally built the whole company on trial and error. And to date, I'm the largest Black female beverage manufacturer in the country.
You better say that again, Nailah. Say that again out loud.
I am the largest Black female beverage manufacturer in the country.
That's stunning. That is stunning. Okay. Yes, give her all of that. Ellis Isle, ISLE Teas, Ellis Isle Teas is where you can go. And actually you're sold on a lot of other places. I know you can get it at Amazon. You can get it like, so how did it go from back of the trunk to you becoming number one? Like, what was that story arc?
So I started out selling out of my trunk, and then I got my first major chain to give me a shot, which was Whole Foods. And then from that point, I hired a co-packer or a bottler because I couldn't keep up doing it on my own in my kitchen. And so from that point, I didn't like the lack of consistency from that bottler. And I just didn't like not having control over the quality that was being put out. So we just looked at, well, what does it take for me to open my own production facility? And I felt crazy because it's like I have no idea what I'm doing. We bought some equipment. It was the same way I started the company. We just bought equipment and trial and error. And year one, I just had my first child. I'll never forget. And 2 weeks after I had her, she was on the line with me. I was breastfeeding, so I would like feed her. She would go to sleep. I would get back on the line. The line was created to run with no less than four people, and it was just me in the beginning. And then we just grew it, and we started it. We just bootstrapped the whole way through. And so we're now at the point where we've got resources. It's been a long, hard journey for us. This certainly was not easy, but every day the mission has been put one foot in front of the other.
Now, the sorrel has some natural properties that are very beneficial health wise. I see you have a sweetened and an unsweetened. What is the sweetened with? Because if you're in Whole Foods, it's got to be all natural. If Whole Foods brought you in before Bezos, I'm imagining that no, you don't have to say anything, but they cared about whether or not things were natural or not. So what's in this that is good, and what's the sweetened with? And now you have this wet sugar. What is that?
So the Ellis Isle, all of our herbs are steeped by hand. So a lot of the bottled iced teas on the market, they're not real tea. It's what I call a tea flavored drink, and it's made from a syrup or a concentrate or some type of tea flavored syrup, and then they're mixing it with water. So all of our herbs are steeped by hand. It's got real hibiscus steeped by hand, which is mainly known for lowering high blood pressure. It's got rose hips, which is rich and loaded with antioxidants. So is the hibiscus, the peppermint leaves, and then we sweeten with honey, and then sugar on the sweet. And then our brand new innovation called wet sugar. I'm super excited about this one because it's 100% plant-based. And what consumers want is health and flavor in the same bottle. And that's been a huge pain point in the market. And I, dedicated my life to this. And I spent the last 2 years studying and researching, how do I deliver both? How do I get flavor and health without adding any processed or refined sugar? So wet sugar, it's a spin on what sugar is made from. So sugar cane, I'm not sure if you've ever chewed on a piece of cane. This is the first drink to market that is sweetened with cold pressed cane. So we literally take the cane, and from harvest, we press the juice out of it, and that is all that we sweeten with. And it is so good, and it is so healthy at the same time. It's literally guilt-free pleasure in a bottle.
I love that. So again, you drop out, you're 19, you're picking up your mat, you're walking with it. Is there a point where you almost gave up? And then what's the point where you knew this was gonna just explode? Like, who helped you? Because nobody gets to a place by themselves.
Yeah, I've had a lot of help along the way. I've had a ton of support. The biggest thing for me has been energy. There's been a lot of positive energy that I've been surrounded by, and people just rooting for me. And so I had a lot of nights where I was extremely frustrated. I can't recall one night where I was like, you know what, I'm throwing in the towel. When I wake up tomorrow, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't recall ever having any of those moments, because I've always known this was my destiny, and this is something that this is my purpose. And I've eliminated all cushion. There is no plan B for me. This is all I got. So I'm either going to break through with this, or I'm a die trying. Those are literally my two options. But yeah, yeah, there are some trying times. Even today at this point, there are days where I get really, really, really frustrated. But quitting is not an option. And entrepreneurship is an emotional roller coaster. It's fun. It's not fun. It's really up and down.
What frustrates you now, uh, at this point, at this level?
Um, a few things. So with the pandemic, I would say supply chain. I think we're all learning the value of supply chain and things just not delivering on time. When you as a supplier are expected to deliver to a retailer like Target. So recently we just launched in every Target in the country, which is huge. And opportunities like this are very hard to come across. And so you want to put your best foot forward and you just want to hit it off from day one. And we had some issues with supply chain. We had my bottle company tell me, hey, we're not going to be able to deliver your bottles on time. And then it's just like, wait, what do you mean you're not going to deliver my bottles on time? You know, I have a Target, a big Target launch. This is the biggest opportunity of my career. That's not
Mm.
acceptable. So things like that. But then it's like, well, what is the bottle manufacturer supposed to do when there's a global resin shortage? Everybody's excuse is the pandemic, but a lot of supply chain was heavily affected by that. And so things that are out of my control, like what are you going to do? There's a global pandemic and supply chain got hit across all industries. And so just I've learned a lot through this pandemic, and that's patience. But that's been one of my biggest frustrations, supply chain and things just being able to deliver on time.
Let's stay in that for a second because I don't know, if it's going to get better. And I think, this pandemic has broken down and revealed a lot, not just with our infrastructure, but with that. There's a truck driver shortage, and what impact does that have? We have some dock issues throughout the country. What impact does that have on somebody like you who's dependent upon things coming from other places to get there? And what if this gets worse? Like, what's your plan B there? You may not have a plan B for your business, but that could impact your business dramatically.
Yeah. So the fortunate thing for us is the fact that we run currently 100% of our manufacturing in house, and so like if we were working with a bottler and we had a co-packer running for us, we would not be at the top of the totem pole because we've got competitors like Pepsi or Coke, which are huge players in the game. And if they come in and say we want the line time on this bottler, people like the small people like me don't stand a chance. So the good thing is we have some control, and the fact that we're able to do everything in house. Outside of that, there are some things that are in our control and some things that aren't. And all I can do is do my best, based, with the things that I do have control over.
So if somebody's listening right now and they have a beverage, because you're doing sorrel and you're doing non-sweetened, sweetened with honey, wet sugar,
Mhm.
which I spelled incorrectly just now. I apologize, folk on Twitter. Multitasking. If somebody wants to jump in and you become like Pepsi or you become the bottler, you know what I'm saying? You're now, are you primed for that? Are you ready for taking on other products?
So, as far as launching additional lines, under our brand, yes. As far as doing private label is what you would call it for another brand, no, we are not set up to do that. We're not in the business of bottling for other brands. Not just yet. It may be something we get into, but we just don't have the capacity to do that right
Okay.
now.
And that is fair. But I like what you said though, and I like you being you can do it. You're just not ready to do it yet. Like you have the infrastructure or the actual mechanism to bottle. I love that. I see Kevin Hart on your website.
Mhm.
Why is Kevin Hart on your website with you?
So Kevin is, one of our investors, and he's somebody that believed in me and, gave me a shot, before it was before it was hot, if that, for lack of better words.
Hmm.
And I had an opportunity to meet with him. I had my elevator pitch and he loved it. He chewed on a piece of sugar cane, never heard of it in his life. And he tasted wet sugar and he was beyond excited and could not believe how healthy it was because he's super health conscious and
Hmm.
he wanted to get behind the brand. And he's like, what he told me was, I believe in you. I see a lot of myself in you and I want to see you win. And I'm going to support you and get behind this brand. And so he became one of our investors slash partners.
So how big a deal was that for you in terms of catapulting you to that number one position?
So we were already there pre
Okay.
meeting Kevin, but it
Okay.
definitely helped a lot as far as the brand recognition. Yeah, it has helped. I'm going to say past progressive.
Yes. I like that. Nailah Ellis Brown is her name. Ellis Isle Tea, which we tweeted out. This is amazing. Sold in Target and Amazon and on the website. This is everything because it's empowering. You have ownership. This is your thing. You don't need anybody to do it. Yes, it's nice to have investors, but like you said, you were number one before you met Kevin Hart. That just put you in another position. And this comes from somebody that just believed in herself. What are your family members who are mad about you dropping out? What are they saying to you now?
They're fully supportive, and to be clear, they were always supportive. It's just people look at life through their lens, and everybody wanted the best for me. And society says, go to high school, graduate, go to college, get a degree, and work for a large corporation. And so that's all a lot of people know. Um, but my family, my supporters are very proud of me and super excited for what's to come, and have always been fully supportive.